Hello folks, welcome back to another HP Gaming GameLINK video. Today we are going to be delving back to something from our first ever Halloween series of videos nigh on 2 years ago, and it is a game we have revisited every Halloween since. And this is something that's going to have us delving into some eldritch lore, looking for those elusive elder signs and embracing the darkness to try and find and discover what lies within as we take a look at Arkham Horror the card game's new revised core set. Hey everyone, welcome back. For those of you who don't know me, and you should by now, my name is Matt, and as I said at the outset, we are looking at the Arkham Horror LCG revised core set today. I'm going to be unboxing this baby, but also talking through a bit of a review of the contents of the box, things that I like, don't like, that sort of stuff as well, so stick around for that. At its core, no pun intended, this is effectively the same size as the Marvel Champions core box. The key change with this that I'm really liking is the fact that this now plays 1 to 4 players out of the box. There's no need to buy a second core set anymore. For those of you that have just the one core set, like myself, this is going to also add in a few extra features, which I'm super pumped about. And it's the little things that I'm really excited about. Contents of this is going to pretty much be the same as the core set with a few key changes. The cards involved here, for the most part, are the same as the starter decks in the original core box, but there's a few extra cards to allow for deck construction and a bit more customization out of the core box from this point forward. Look, let's rip the plastic off this sucker. Let's get down to the table. We'll show you what it's all about and show you those key differences that we talked about. All right, come on down. All right, let's get into the thick of it now. So here is the core box. It's going to cause a little bit of camera shake, but that's okay. The artwork is very much the same. You can see there's a new tentacle here being shot apart by Roland, which I think is a bit nice. It's a nice, fantastic look at, I don't know, just upgrading the core game box. Look, it's going to be very, very similar. If you've watched the unboxing of the original that we did on our channel, then you'll know already a bit about what this game is about. If you're new to Arkham Horror, this is definitely the product that you want. If you have played and have a core set or have two core sets of Arkham Horror, is this something you need? Probably not, and I'll explain why later. First things first though, let's get this plastic off of here. And we'll take the plastic and chuck it on the floor. Why am I unboxing this? One, because I'm curious. Two, because this box is going to hold a lot more than the original core box is. And I need a place to store all my collection because it is running out. Oh my goodness, a great opening. The core box for the original core box is a lot smaller. It's only slightly larger than the deluxe expansions. So having a box that's larger to store everything in, I think, is going to be a fantastic storage solution, particularly for your core cards for the campaigns you're currently playing in. And I know that as well, the new campaign packs they're putting together. You can get an Investigator pack with the 5 new Investigators and their starting decks and cards. And then you can get the campaign pack, which is all the campaign cards for that particular cycle. So instead of having, a deluxe pack and then 6 Mythos packs, it's one box for Investigators, 1 box for cards that relate to the campaign. So 2 products, less SKUs. Overall, the price point is less considerably. I think instead of paying $23.95 per Mythos pack now, it's like 40 something, 70 and 60, I think. I'll double check that. It'll pop up on screen anyway. First and foremost, let's see. We've got the Learn to Play guide. Now, I don't expect this to be too dissimilar from what is already in the original core. Talks about scenario cards. The art on the cards is going to be very similar. It does talk about the newer components, which I'll come to in a little while. And I'm pretty sure this is basically the same, just presented in a new way. that details all the new updated rules since the game's original release, how it all works, campaign guides, etc., etc., scenario setup, how that all works. So that's pretty much the same. It has obviously new art, new other bits and pieces. Now this is the big one here. The rules reference is going to be considerably more expanded. So there's a bigger index there as well. Sharper explanation of the rules. This is probably also going to discuss things that relate to rules and other bits and pieces from further campaigns that aren't part of this initial core set. I don't know whether Fantasy Flight's intention is to release or re-release the campaigns in the new box cycles, same as Edge of the Earth, which is the next cycle to come out later this year. It may be pushed back, who knows, shipping crisis across the world. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But if they re-release all the cycles, then the return to boxes that I have that store all of the campaigns that I have existing in terms of their cards and their cycles will become obsolete, because they'll basically have one box like this for everything per campaign, which I have to say is going to take up more shelf space, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think they've done something with Lord of the Rings as well. So whether they do that with Legend of the Five Rings, I should say. I can't get that out. So this is a new campaign guide. Now this is interesting. This is basically, the original campaign guide was a square book about so big, but this is obviously a nice big A4 setup. So I wonder if they've got space for obviously more text, more full color art, resolutions. I'm assuming that you've played Arkham Horror, so the resolutions aren't going to surprise you. And then of course the final bit, the end, or is it what happens next? The campaign guide at the back, which is pretty straightforward, lots more space to write, and it is on the one page as opposed to being over 2 pages. That's kind of cool too. Oh yes, a shameless plug for Unfathomable, I should say, I cannot speak today, which is coming out later this year. Look out for an unboxing of that one. That's going to be an amazing game. And of course the novellas for the different books that are out as well. The Devourer Below, I think, is basically the same story of the same campaign that's in the core box. Now, here we get into some new stuff, which is very cool. Tokens galore. Now, for those of you that are familiar with Arkham Horror, there's going to be a few things here that you won't recognize. Most notably, and most excitably, is the tokens here for your resources. You've got your basic resource token here, but you've also got resources by 3, resources by 5. That is one thing I found, depending on the character or the deck that I've built for my investigators, I was always running shy of tokens, particularly once you reach that elusive 4th player count. Even at 2 players, sometimes I found that there was never enough resource tokens in the box. So having them by 3 and the big chunky by 5s down here is really, really handy. And there's a few extras in here that I didn't expect, but that's okay. So let's have a look. I'm going to punch open these, the punch outs, and we'll have a look at those too. The unboxing for this is not going to take a long time. The cards, I will try and get through most of the cards. I will skim over them. You will be able to pause tape so you can have a look. Getting the plastic off these tokens here. Plastic again goes on the floor. Now, a lot of this is not going to be new for veterans of Arkham Horror, but if you're new to this core set is definitely the way to go if you're going to start your collection. We have done a retrospective, or a bit of a review, what to buy, buyer's guide, that sort of stuff for Arkham Horror, and all things there contained therein. The tokens and the chipboard here are quite nice. It's Fantasy Flight, so the quality is obviously going to be fantastic, and they'll mesh well with the existing set of tokens, which is great. But the big ones here, and there's a couple of different ones I'll show you. The rest of them are all fine, so we won't worry about those. You've got here what looks like your different resources in 3 and 5 different sizes. And I like the fact that it's not just one resource with a number. It's actually got 3 cubes for 3 and 5 cubes for 5 for your resources, which is very cool. I'm digging that. If you're new to Arkham Horror and you're wondering where do I start, this is going to be the way to go, only because it's going to allow for 4 players to play simultaneously without having to get that second core set. It's one of those things that we talked about in our review. The second core, do you need it? If you're playing solo or even 2 players, you probably don't. But if you're playing at that higher player count, this is going to be the way to go. The original core, I think, is now obsolete anyway. So if you did want one, you can always grab one cheap off the store at the moment. That's the first player marker, or first investigator marker, I should say. Just to sort of keep track of who's who in the zoo, which is quite cool. I like that. And this is the other thing they've done, is they've actually, I think, made the, no, they look about the same size, the horror or terror token horror, which is 3, and there's a single one as well. But what's great with the clues now, the clues here, 4 clues, and then the doom, which are the same. These sometimes ran out as well, depending on some of those epic multiplayer scenarios that require lots of clues on lots of different sites. So now you have a clue times 3 token, which is the same symbol, but the magnifying glass has a 3 in it, and on the back, the reverse, you've got the doom tracker as well, which makes things a bit easier and will make your stockpile last a lot longer. Now, I didn't read the box properly. I didn't realize this was going to be the case. This is very cool. So in the original core, there was no chaos bag at all. There was nothing, no receptacle. You had to actually supply your own. In the new core box, you've got a chaos bag that you can put your chaos tokens in. And the chaos tokens, for those of you that aren't aware what they are made up of tokens like this. And you make a blind pull when you perform a skill check. So you might have a skill value of 5 versus whatever it is you're trying to, whatever the total is you're trying to reach. You pull a -4, you end up on 1, which usually results in a fail. The elder sign is an insta success. And of course, this nasty bit of business here is an insta fail token, meaning that you fail a skill check no matter how powerful you are. But you put all those tokens into this black chaos bag here, shuffle them around, and whenever you perform a skill check, which is a lot, you draw a token from that bag. Best part about this is it's not just a black bag, it's got crazy eldritch symbols on them, which is fantastic as well. The inclusion of this is really, really quite nice. It's screen printed, which is okay. I mean, an embroidered one would have been awesome, but time is money, whatever you want to call it. But the fact that's included in there means you don't have to go hunting around for a chit cup or anything else as well, which is brilliant. And of course, you've got all the storage there for extra cards and things as well. The only thing left to go through is the mountains, and I mean mountains, of cards that are in this set. So let's have a look here. Oh, hang on. The mini cards are the same from memory. So there's our friend Roland. Oh no, it's different art. That's cool. Updated art on the mini cards. Let's skip. Wendy looks a lot younger in this version. I don't mind the different art. It's something a bit different. For those of you that have already got a core set, that's quite cool. I do like that. Now these cards here, I don't know if these cards are going to have alternate art on them. We'll find out. Let's have a look. What have we got here? We've got scenario cards. Are these all scenario ones here? Let's see. So these are scenario cards. You've got The Gathering, which is the first scenario I ever played. Midnight Masks, and then Devourer Below, which is the 3rd scenario in the game. I will not go through these scenario cards only because they are the same as the core set. The art might be slightly different, but I also don't want to spoil it if people haven't seen or haven't played through this scenario. So in the rest here, I think we've got 4 ready to play decks out of the box here. So we've got what looks like, 5. Wendy Adams, that's her deck ready to go. And this is where it gets beautiful, 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 beautiful. So we've got our friend Roland. You've got Daisy, Skip, Agnes, and Wendy. So there are 5 decks ready to go. You can literally take the shrink off and just go for it. All those cards. Now those are made up of the core decks that were in the base box, I believe. I'll double check that. It also has a reference card for each deck in the pack as well. That's awesome. Ready to play, out of the box, no hesitation. Take the cards out, give them a shuffle, open the Learn to Play, and you're off. What's beautiful about this one is that it's got these cards. Now, these are cards you can use to upgrade your deck when you spend experience that you earn throughout the scenario. So I think these ones here are basically ones that were included in the first few Mythos packs or the deluxe Dunwich expansion. Maybe. We'll have a look and see. There's a few that I recognize, but they're labeled as new core packs. So I think there was a few extra ones you could upgrade in the core pack anyway, but these ones all have the pips on them because they're able to be upgradable. So you've got here extra ammunition, which obviously we know and love, the police badge. Now that's different artwork, or is it a different card altogether? Correct me if I'm wrong. Beat Cop, there he is. Good at what he does, a good ally to have. Shotgun, always a handy card to have. First Aid, I've had worse. The classic magnifying glass, definitely a staple in a Seeker deck. The Disc of its armor. Some encyclopedia action. Cryptic research, late at night, yep. Seeking answers. Some of these cards are very similar. A lot of these have similar, if not upgraded, art on them. Leo DeLuca, yeah, he's a classic. You get to take an additional action, very handy. I used him in a Jenny Barnes deck, and yeah, that was a very powerful deck as it turns out by the end of the Dunwich campaign. Sure Gamble. So these cards allow you, Hot Streak, gain 10 resources, yes please. Allow you to obviously have a bit more deck customization as you play through. Derringer Guns, Mind Wipe, yep, classic. Blinding Light, Book of Shadows. Doesn't matter how many times I play Arkham Horror or how many times I look at the cards. The art, yes, it's gory at times, but it's just so good. I love that scrying. It's so good. Just beautiful, beautiful art. Akina, Close Call. These are all the survivor cards now for Wendy or anyone else you want to choose who's a survivor. Will to Survive. There she is again, but it's a more leveled up version. Eucatastrophe. Play when you reveal a Chaos token that would reduce your skill value to 0. Cancel that token and treat it as an Elder Sign instead. Bulletproof Vests. Amulet, yes, a classic. Emergency Cache, yes, and that's an upgraded version. It allows you to draw a card. Charisma, which is a permanent. Relic Hunter, different extra accessories. And then we get some weaknesses. We've got amnesia, paranoia, psychosis, hypochondria, and of course, the Stubborn Detective, which I believe is part of the Midnight Masks one from memory. It's been a while since I've played it. So we can use those to help with deck building as well. Now, as I said, not going to go through the scenario packs because I believe they are all the same. I may do that in a separate video down the track, but this is all about the actual core set contents. Roland is one of the characters I first used only because it was the first name and the first pack that I opened when I did the core. So he was the first guy that I took out for the original campaign, the Night of the Zealot, in the core box. Will I do it again this time? Probably not. I know too much about Arkham Horror now, so you know. I think I don't know the new art. I'm a purist, so I think I like the original art better, but I don't mind the new art because it's a nice change. A bit of a backstory on the cards as well, which is nice. It talks about the deck building elements, and then you've got the actual cards in the deck. His 38 special, which is a staple, updated to match, which is nice. Cover up weakness. The Silver Twilight Acolyte, that's new. After Acolyte attacks, place 1 dim on the current agenda. That's nasty, we don't want that. 45 automatic. Physical training, now that's the artwork is the same. Beat Cop, First Aid, Machete, bit of a guard dog to help you cause some trouble. Evidence, yep, we all know about evidence. Dodge. Dynamite Blast, very handy, particularly towards the end of the first campaign, for those of you that know what I'm talking about. Now, I did like that Roland was also a Seeker as well as a Guardian. It also allowed for some really nice Seeker cards to be put into the deck as we were playing through. But in the original campaign I played, there was only a handful of cards that I could upgrade, including, obviously, Magnifying Glass. It just didn't give me the full customization experience, and it wasn't until I played through Dunwich with all the Mythos packs and the deluxe expansion as well as the core set of cards that I really got into, you know, the understanding of what it means to build your own deck in Arkham Horror and using, you know, different tools to help keep track of which cards, upgrades, that sort of stuff. And these are all the same. Then you've got your reference there as well. So the core cards themselves for the different investigators are all relatively the same. There's a few extra surprises in there so far. So maybe in the campaign, I don't know, maybe I'll play through it again with the new set just to see if it's the same. There's Daisy for you. And again, the back of her card and the story there. And then you've got her tote bag, which is always a classic. The Necronomicon. Paranoia, weakness, magnifying glass, because she has the extra weakness in her deck. More Seeker cards, hyper awareness, medical text. And a lot of these we've just seen in Roland's. Working a hunch. Barricade, deduction. Forbidden knowledge. See, look at that. How good is it? It's so beautiful and also terrifying at the same time. Holy Rosary, shriveling, scrying. There's a card again, Arcane Studies, Arcane Initiate, drawn to the flame, aren't we all? Protection, blinding light again, fearless. I love that, so beautiful. Knife, we saw flashlight. So these are all staples. Perception, manual, dexterity, bit of lockpicking action. Yeah, Daisy is someone I haven't played as, but I think there's a lot to be said for Daisy. Now, Skids, I think, is... I don't know, I like the idea of the rogue. Some of the cards in the rogue aspect, not aspect, that's very much Marvel Champions. I don't know, I love them because they're very much my play style, liking to, you know, pull the wool over people's eyes and do some crazy, tricky stuff. I didn't realise that you know, Skids was a bit of a guardian as well, which is quite cool. On the Lamb, he owes money. Hospital debts, yep. Mob Enforcer, that's a bit nasty. Switchblade. Burglary. Bit of pickpocketing, fair enough. The Derringer. Leo. Hard Knocks. Then we get Elusive. Backstab, that's a nice card to have. Sneak Attack's a nice card to have. Opportunist as well. And then we get some Guardian cards that we saw before in Roland's deck. So you can see already mixing and matching the base cards itself can be a deck building experience before you even get into those extras that they've put in. I think that's what this is designed for. I know that Marvel Champions, the core box, you can play with 4 characters, but you can't play certain characters together because of the core cards that are in that box. Whereas here, you can literally pick any one of the 5 and run their deck. I mean, not saying you'd be able to have a 5-player game, but if you wanted to, you've got 5 decks ready to go. So you've got enough cards. You don't have to keep shuffling around to play certain things. Obviously, that's something that was discovered when they released Marvel Champions, the core box. Who knows, maybe they'll change that down the track for Marvel Champions, although down the track now, as far as we are into Marvel Champions, there's enough cards to, you know, build decks for pretty much anybody without having to double up too much. Agnes's backstory there. And then here we go, we've got her cards. The Heirloom of Hyperborea. I will say I'm enjoying using Mystic. I've got a Mystic with Jim, what's his name? The trumpet player from Dunwich, I believe. Amazing. He's actually acquired a few extra cards from campaigning with some single scenarios through the Bayou, Curse of the Rougarou. Yeah, crazy stuff. And he's actually acquired the pet oozling from from the blob that ate everything. So yeah, there it is, leather coat. Now I remember putting that into one of my decks as well. I think Jenny had that, and she was able to use that to great effect in the later scenarios of the Dunwich campaign. Stray cat. Now it's a stray cat, but that's a terrifying stray cat. Yes, you can use it to take some damage off you, but yeah, nasty business. Dig deep. Cunning distraction. Look what I found. I like that. You get to discover 2 clues instead of 1. Lucky escape, survival instinct, and then more knives. I think the basic cards are all the same in each of these decks, depending on their aspect or their whatever they're from. Unexpected courage. Love it. Love it. Still such a great game. I don't play it enough, even though it is probably one game that hits the table more than any other. War of the Outer Gods. Review for that one's coming soon. Check that one out. And then we've got here our friend Wendy Adams again, who looks very, very young. I don't know whether that was intentional. Interesting. Wendy's amulet. Yeah, she's very young. Wow. really interesting. I mean, I think she was meant to be initially, but they it was more for adult gamers, so they made her a bit more of an adult. But I think this time they've really dialed back because they just don't care anymore. Scavenging around for stuff. Baseball bat we saw before. Rabbit's foot we saw before. There's that damn cat again. Dig deep. Cunning distraction. Evade all enemies at your location. That is a very handy card. Thinking some of the different campaigns where I've been trapped by so many enemies at once, that's a very useful card to have. Discover clues, lucky again, survival instinct again, switchblade we saw before, burglary, pickpocketing, the Derringer, Leo again, hard knocks again, hard knocks again, speaking of knocking, that's very hilarious, elusive. And then you've got backstab again to do 2 extra damage, deal 2 damage to exhausted enemy location. Opportunist, if you succeed by 3 or more, return this to your hand. I like that card. That's a good card. And then again, flashlight, emergency cache, overpower. So again, different cards depending on different characterizations, aspects, etc. And that's it. That's everything that's in the core box. Let's come on out. I've got some things I want to talk to you about, give you a little bit of a review of this one. I can't talk about the actual campaign. Obviously, I haven't played and opened those packs, but coming out, we'll talk about some of the differences and things that I like and dislike about this new core set. Okay, so there you have it. That is an unboxing of the Arkham Horror card game core, revised core set, I should say. Now, it's very much a starting set for those people that are yet to delve into the world of Arkham Horror. If you've never played Arkham Horror before, this is where you should start, only because it gives you enough to play with 4 players out of the box now, which is fantastic, and I really love it. Is it worth having if you've already got 2 core sets? I don't think so, because you'll have enough for the 2 core sets to already have everything here. The price point for this one, I think, is around about the $80 mark, so that is a bit more, it's a bit hefty for what it is. If you've already got 2 core sets, there's no real incentive except to get a new token set and an official Chaos bag. Other than that, there's nothing else that's new in here, pending the campaign, which obviously I haven't opened up yet. This game, the core set here is great for obviously new players to the game. The fact that it has 5 pre-built decks ready to go out of the box is fantastic, and you don't have to chop and change between those. The original core had the 5 decks but only had limited number of cards, whereas here you've got cards for every single player, and then you can mix and match those as well, which I really like too. I think, did this have a place? Was this necessary? Yes and no. I think because of the fact that they're going to be moving away from the Mythos packs as a whole, which I for shipping reasons, I love that, because it means you're only shipping 1 box. You only have to make 2 purchases if you want the complete cycle, Investigators and campaign. But I think having the Mythos packs and being able to go one at a time and open the pack at the end of each scenario and move on to the next thing, that was a thrill for me. I do understand the mechanic, particularly with the shipping crisis happening across the world, so I get they're moving to this. And I know a lot of the products are moving to this as well. As I said, Lord of the Rings is doing so. I think 5 Rings may potentially do that as well. Marvel obviously started that off with a core set that was this size. I think what's to like about this, I think, particularly is the token set. Having those tokens with, +3, +5, that sort of stuff on them just makes the things a lot easier. As a solo player, predominantly a solo player who only had the 1 core set to begin with, I'm using this as my 2nd core set, because it is, to give me those extra tokens, the extra first player investigator token if I ever decide to take 2 investigators out on my own, or if I'm playing with multiple people. In particular, I like this because it's going to help me when I'm teaching the game, because I always want to bring new players into Arkham Horror and discuss their experiences. While Arkham Horror at its core has been a great solo adventuring experience for me, I cannot rave about it enough. Again, if you haven't checked out our review and buyer's guide, do so. Hopefully it covers most things. The core set, the revised core set, is a helpful addition if you've only got 1 core box existing. 1 for storage, which is great. So if you're ever running a campaign, you can keep pretty much an entire campaign cycle up to a point in here before you get the return box. If you're like me, you're a completionist, you'll wait till you've got the entire cycle, including the return to box, then you can store it all in there. But I found that in terms of my storage solutions, I've got my campaign draws split in different aspects. So I've got a Guardian and Seeker in one box. I've got Basics in another. I've got Rogue and Survivor in another. So at least then they're all separated, but it does mean I'm going back and forth. The campaign cards for each one only take up a certain amount of that box. The rest of it is basically a card file for those cards. So if I'm playing a new campaign, I can store all of the campaign cards in this one box, which means when I go to play, I just pull one box out. I don't know. I think it's definitely got a place in the market now, particularly for the new players. I mean, this game's been around for, what, 5 years or something now, so it's been out there a while. Lots of content for this one. I do like the idea of the bigger storage box. I do like the idea of the tokens, the upgraded tokens, the ×2, ×3 tokens. That's fantastic. The first player marker. And the inclusion of a chaos bag. Nice touch. I obviously didn't read the back of the box or do my research. Obviously, it was a surprise for me that it was in there. I think the updated rules reference is going to be valuable for those people that want an updated rules reference from the core set, rather than having to have different rule books from different campaigns out all the time. That's going to be handy, and also stops you going to the internet and researching stuff. As I said, for me, the biggest benefit of this is for teaching the game, particularly that first scenario. It's the best. It's a tutorial scenario at heart. That's why it's so good. But being able to run that with 4, at a stretch 5, which is not advisable, is definitely something that this core set will allow you to do in terms of teaching the game really quickly. Basically, as I said, all I had to do was unshrink those decks, and we're good to go. The tokens and everything else are already there. Is it necessary if you've got 2 core sets and you're a completionist and you've got heaps of stuff? No, I don't think so. Being able to build decks out of the box and being able to customize them a lot more is a nice touch. But if you're a veteran player, there's not really a need for it, only because you would have already had all those cards from the other Mythos packs and everything else as well. If you're thinking about getting into Arkham Horror, as I've said, this is the way to go. The customization of it, I think, is going to be good. The slight different artwork for the Investigators in this core box means that if you've got a pre-existing core set, obviously you can mix and match the artwork with whatever you prefer. At its heart, I guess, Arkham Horror is still a game that I hold near and dear. It's still a fantastic board game, tabletop card game experience. And I think in terms of the LCGs that are out there, it's still one of my favorites. Marvel Champions and Arkham Horror for me are interchangeable. I love them both equally. But the theme in this is just that much more sensational. There you go. If there's something that I've missed, by all means, let me know in the comments below. If you have thoughts about the core set and its inclusions or not, or lack of inclusions, things that are key differences. If you've played the campaign, is it slightly different? Is there things that I've missed there that I'm yet to experience? Let me know. Otherwise, by all means, hit that subscribe button. Give us a like if you can, please. And we'll see you back at the table very soon for more crazy antics. As always, thank you to our Patreon subscribers as well. We really appreciate you guys and the support you give us to allow us to have all this crazy fun. Until then, folks, wait for our next spooky video. Don't be afraid of the dark. And we'll see you back at the table very soon. Till then, it is bye for now.